Oh no, I was at the gym. So there's this like group of powerlifters. They're like a very tight crew, great guys. Always come in like when I come in. Just become friends with them, work out with them sometimes. One of them's like, "Do you have any hobbies?" And I was like, "You know what? Not really. Like I work, I love my profession, I love learning about it. I've got this, and then I work out. But the
Yeah.
one thing is I follow a lot of football coaches from high school to like consultants. And there's this guy, his name is Dan Casey, and he just breaks down offense. And it's so fascinating to me. So when I decide to make a little time, I really want to get into like real football strategy and coaching. There's some coaches, and I never realized how complicated it would be. But there's this video of, I think it was Matthew Stafford, and he's getting the comm from Sean McVay, the coach, and like of setting up the play. You know, they've got their language, but it's like a minute of just telling people what to do, and it's fascinating.
Hey, speed left edge jack. All right, it's going to be American Exchange. Can it, all right, with 3-jet rib Z Brownie. Oh, easy, listen. 13 duo, Tim. Yeah, here it is. Woo! I got it. Please, stop. Yes, please stop. Oh my God, he's still going. Hey, he's still going. Hey, snatch this if you get him, right? I mean, he's still going. You're 1.5 yards from an edge split in the middle. I mean, this is unbelievable what I'm getting right now. Holy, boys.
All right, man. Ready to get the show on the road?
That's right.
We have only free ads, Rain Energy Drink for all
Double
my
fisting,
there we
coffee and
go.
water.
For all my ASMR people. All right, man.
Gotta have the
So
drinks.
we can pick up where we left off. So talking about what goes into someone's income, right? So last time we talked about very traditional pay structures, how an owner, how an associate can make money. But we were talking about last time, if you work in insurance-heavy practice, right? At least to me, it seems very complicated, and you have much more knowledge on this than I do. But everyone, I would think, again, that's an assumption, and that might be wrong, but at least when I was growing up, the dream for my immigrant parents was for me to own a small business, and you want to be fee for service, right? We were talking about crown prices yesterday, $1,600 for a crown. You want $1,600 cash from the patient, right? That is fee for service. You have a fee for your service, and the patient pays it. And that is it. You don't have to deal with this lag in collection time. You don't have to deal with the third, maybe the second party that is insurance itself. There's always the issue of docs complaining that they got denied for a certain claim. I have found that as opposed to medicine and dentistry, a lot of things that we find essentially a dental disease, right? Insurance doesn't see it that way. I actually saw, I think it was a surgeon, he started some sort of movement to get edentulosum to be seen as an actual disease. Because yeah, like it is not seen as a disease, so the insurance reimbursements on procedures related, I think it was more like
They
it
see
was
it as
an all on X guy, so like the reimbursement full there is, you know, like at least I don't know in your neck of the woods, but in mine, like implants aren't covered most of the time by
yeah,
insurance.
no, pretty rare.
Right?
Yeah,
I mean, honestly, bridges as well. But like, you know, in dentistry, we see missing teeth as kind of a disease.
wow, that's mind-boggling, man. That is like another thing that I didn't even know about insurance. That it just like, man, I wish insurance was a person and we could just fist fight them and like solve this problem because there's like so many things that you hear that you're just like. So I have to make like I watched this argument yesterday on Facebook. Not argument, people talking about insurance reimbursements and stuff, and it was about doing a root canal. It was a molar root canal, and the insurance required this individual to have certain radiographs throughout the treatment to prove that they were doing it appropriately, but they could only bill for the root canal. And all these people were saying, like, well, if you're saying that all of these PAs are required, shouldn't I be reimbursed for those? And it was just another thing that was like, wait, so you're making me do all these things? And some of them, obviously, you need a pre, you need a post. I think you need an MAF. But yeah, yeah, whatever. It's just like another insurance thing that I'm just appalled that they don't see a dential as another condition. What?
I
That's like
don't
probably
re-
the most affected dental person you could have. That's like the worst dental condition you can have.
Again, I'm probably misremembering. Again, the guy was like in
But
all
still,
on
even
X.
even
Yeah.
to hear that is like, it just gets me like angry at the insurance world just hearing that.
So, taking a
Back to
step
it.
back, talking about insurance. So we've obviously got fee for service, which is, I would feel like, everyone's preferred method, less headache. You get the money however you want, whether it is a payment plan or all up front or before you touch the drill, however you want to do it. Maybe in steps, you pay per procedure. That is the goal, but look, I would say, what do you think? 90% of people don't pay just straight out of pocket. They have some sort of, we'll call it some supplementary form of reimbursement. And so the two big ones that I know, and again, these are buzzwords, these abbreviations are PPO, which is Preferred Provider Organization, and then DMO, HMO, which I don't actually know what they stand for, but if you want to expand on all of those, please go ahead.
Yeah, so I think like dental insurance reminds me a little bit of like student loan plans going through dental school. Like, they exist. You kind of have this general idea that they're out there, but nobody in dental school spends the time to like articulate what they are. So I think Alex nailed it. PPO, Preferred Provider Organization, and like from the patient standpoint. So if you're the patient that has that PPO plan, you get to see your preferred provider. So you can really pick to see anybody, and that insurance is going to provide some level of reimbursement. Now you might have to seek it yourself if that office isn't going to do the work for you, but you can really see who you want. Now in an HMO, that's where things change. So that's a health maintenance organization, and that's where you'll have like a designated primary dentist. So they'll tell you, all right, Tony, you have to see Dr. Tony, and Dr. Tony's basically your quarterback. So for those people that don't watch football, the quarterback gets the ball and they get to decide where it goes next. So what I mean by that is the kind of quarterback dentist gets to see you as the primary care doc, and they have to decide if you can see a specialist or not. So like, you couldn't get pain, decide you need a root canal yourself, go find your endodontist buddy and have them do your root canal. You'd have to see your primary care doc, get the referral to the endodontist that is within the network, and then you could see that endodontist. So it basically limits your ability to see. So that's the patient standpoint. Now, from a dentist standpoint, or more of an owner dentist standpoint, and again, we've never been owners, but this is how it kind of reimburses for a PPO, you're going to get reimbursed for what you do. So you're going to have a negotiated fee schedule with these various insurance companies, and Alex has kind of been hitting the crown example. So let's say your UCR, your office fee, your cash pay fee is $1,500. You negotiated a fee with the PPO. Let's just say your PPO with Cigna, and that fee is for $1,000. Okay, great. You've both agreed that they're going to reimburse you $1,000 for that crown. When you do that crown, you're going to get your $1,000, provided you did all the parameters of the crown correctly. Conversely,
Big
in an
assumption.
HMO,
That's a big assumption.
yeah. There's like obviously a bunch of tick marks and other boxes you got to check to get that. But let's just assume everything was done right. They had the nice auditor there that day. They stroked your check. You got it in the mail. Boom. Okay, everybody's happy. HMO plan, little different. When you're an HMO, you're going to basically get a monthly, I can't say this word that great, capitated payment. Basically, that just means that for however many patients you've got, they're going to give you a certain amount of money each month, and that's essentially supposed to support whatever services those individuals need. So it puts... It's hard, right? Like, you might have somebody that needs a lot of dental work and you don't feel like you're maybe getting as much money back for them. So a lot of dentists don't love taking HMO plans because it can put you in this weird financial constraint where when you're not reimbursed for the dental work that you're directly doing, how do you know it's an equal trade-off, I guess, would be... That'd be the most basic way I feel like you can really think about it. I don't know, did I miss any of the stuff in there?
No, I think that's good in that small little dovetail about these capitation plans. So essentially, there's an incentive from the office to take on more patients under this capitation plan because an insurance
Volume-based.
company will just send you a check for how many patients. And I remember this is something that I recommend whether you own your own office or you work for someone, but have a relationship with your office manager. Because my previous office manager I was looking over my production. I saw these kind of this capitation production or income for myself. I was like it seemed awesome. There's like a lump sum of money, right? But then you look at the reimbursement, like there's got to be a catch, right? One of my favorite quotes, Thomas Sowell, famous economist, there are no solutions, only trade-offs, right? So it seemed like the reimbursement from these capitation plans, per procedure was much, much lower. But the office manager was so enthralled with, we just get this blank check for these patients. And I may be misremembering, but I think it was like just $5 per patient or something. It was something
I've never taken
low.
an HMO. Like I said, I've never been an owner, so I've never had to live this. But the owner I've worked with previously, he had taken them before I got there, and I remember him telling me like it was like a number that was like a Starbucks coffee, where you were like, so you were supposed to take care of this person's dental needs for a whole month for that, you know?
And the idea is, in my humble opinion, there are enough mouths to feed. And you only have two hands, right? As a dentist, we are limited by our physical capacity to do the work. So if you can only see X amount of patients, and if you get kind of the illusion of this free money from this capitation plan, for that patient, when that crown, you get reimbursed $600-$700 for that crown, as opposed to another patient where the reimbursement is $900-$1,000 for the crown, because you still have a limited amount of time, that offset is not enough. Because I remember it was like $2,000-$4,000. Like, what is that? 4 crowns? 10 crowns? Like,
what point does the crossover hurt?
Right. And this is not an issue of who you should choose to treat. It is not, you should only take patients from a certain plan. Everyone needs care. But it was kind of moving in the opposite direction, where we were almost favoring patients from this capitation plan, right?
Interesting. I've never heard of that.
Because we were getting this blank check. But I don't know, just always think about, when we were talking about contracts or anything, take a step back and think of the incentives from the other side. Why would someone want you to take a certain patient? At the end of the day, it is your decision. You have the choice, or your office manager, your company, whoever you want to take. But I was thinking, like, why are we so enthralled with this blank check when maybe there's another patient who may need more work, and instead we're displacing them with someone because we get $5 from the insurance company. Anyway, so
I think it's just that predictable cash flow. Honestly, is like, I think from an office standpoint, if you're a manager, it's probably nice to know, like, if you know that your basic overhead for the month is $50K, okay, and I got $25K from this HMO plan, you're probably in your head like, okay, now I'm going to need $25,000 of treatments. So from a managerial standpoint, as opposed to just an owner standpoint, maybe the thinking is easier because the tide kind of lowered how much you gotta earn. But from everyone trying to produce that money, it gets harder. And I was thinking, the insurance guy, Travis Campbell, he knows this stuff like the back of his hands. Yeah, and I was thinking when we were talking about this, my office, I work at a fee-for-service office 2 days a week, and I work at a heavy PPO office 2 days a week. And the fee-for-service clinic, we have an in-office plan called the Smile Plan. And until Alex and I were talking just now, I had never thought of it. But we're basically doing an in-office HMO plan. So the patients pay us $100 a year per head. So it's not per family, it's per head. And what that does is that gets them all of their cleaning, exam, and x-ray visits will be $99. Additionally, any treatments they need, they get 20% off of those treatments in year 1. In year 2, if they do the $100 and re-up, they get 25% off. In year 3, they had to pay the $100, and then they can get up to 30% off. And now that's the cap. But I was thinking, like, from our standpoint, if our crown was $1,500, that 30% off, now it never drops us to like the HMO reimbursement levels, don't hear that. But I was thinking, like, from the patient standpoint, you kind of chose your provider. So you got the PPO world, and then you got this very reduced fee. But from us, it gave the office this predictable flow because we had like 1,000 patients or something that did it. So that was like $100,000 or something that the office collects on January 1 every year. So I don't know. I've thought when I converted to an owner model myself, I was thinking that sounded like a kind of cool way to keep people around.
Yeah, so I was listening to some dental podcasts, and this doctor, her name is Rhonda Kalasha. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing it, but so she's a big shot, and that is complimentary. She's a very good dentist in California, and she was talking about how she wants to start a membership plan, right?
Yeah,
and so
that's what we call it.
Right. Yeah, and so we have one too in our office, and it's the same deal. But I think these are two. You remember convergent and divergent evolution in biology? How like there might be two animals that both fly, but how they got to that point is different. So I think the capitation plan, is how insurance kind of made it, and they probably have much lower fees in exchange for this. Again, we love certainty. One of my favorite books. Thinking Fast and Slow, Daniel Kahneman, rest in peace. So humans love certainty. There's nothing like 100% guarantee. And guess I'm going solo for this pod at this point.
No, you're good.
But then there are these membership plans, right, with a different incentive, still also keeps the patient with reduced fees, but it's a very interesting way to retain patients. But regardless, this idea is through insurance, right? There are these capitation plans where you think you're kind of getting that certainty versus membership plans that maybe your office provides also to reduce fees, but probably to a fee that is a little more enticing, productive, attractive to the office. So I think that about wraps it up for insurance. And I know we talked last time, but I'll say again is another important factor is timing, right? Fee for service is automatic, immediate, 100% certainty you got your money. A lot of times between 30 and 90 days, either at the start of the procedure or after the end of the procedure is when you actually get paid for it because it is reimbursement. Like Tony kind of mentioned, either your office does it for the patient or you tell the patient, hey, here's the form, send this to your insurance. We might help you through the process, but you've got to do it yourself. So again, that goes into the collection percentage, right? You might bill out a certain amount, but only collect 90%.
And I think that's a big takeaway is the when you get paid. So I live both worlds, right? I said I live at fee-for-service office 2 days and I live at PPO world 2 days. And my fee-for-service clinic, literally the patients pay before the treatments. So like when we diagnose and they get scheduled, they pay before they come. So we have collected all of the money before I even see the patient that day. And in the PPO world, Alex is right, it comes in 2, 4, 8 weeks later. So it's hilarious to do treatments on somebody one day and have already received payment like a week before that, and then do treatment on somebody the next day and get paid 8 weeks later because I get paid on collection. So you're so right. It's such an interesting, it's so weird to think about. Within the same business, we have these two models and the vastly different paid time frames.
So now I think we can go into, I would say, I don't know, alternative, but not so common sort of inflows for a dentist. So bonuses, incentive, and perks. So the first one is a production or collection bonus. So you will get, if you produce X, we will just give you Y extra. Congratulations, you produced a certain amount, you collected a certain amount. Here's some money for your efforts. That's pretty basic. It could be either just a blank check or a percentage. My production percentages are tiered. 30% up to X amount, 31% up to Y, and then 33% past Z is kind of like a marginal tax rate where it's not like if I produce 50, it's 30% on the whole thing. It's 30%
that next block.
Yep. And then the next block, I get 31% of that. And then the next block, anything above a certain amount, let's say $100,000, I get 33% of that. So again,
resets monthly?
Yes, resets monthly.
Okay.
So
that's cool, man.
I get paid on production, so it's the work is done. That is the money that is in the account, and that's it. I would assume for collections, because you're running or a draw or something like that. If you are running on a 3-month, 6-month basis, right? Those percentages would be different, or they would just split up the tiers up to different amounts. But
yeah, I just think it would all waters would raise rising tides. It'd just be probably 300. Like in your example, it'd be probably like 300K in 3 months.
Right.
Or the collections would have to be a small percentage less or whatever. But yeah, my buddy has that in Colorado, and it's awesome. I think it's a great way to keep associates hungry too, right? Like, if every month you're stuck at 65 grand and you know, like, man, if I can get to 80 grand, I get this next jump in my income, you're going to probably really push to find that extra 15K every month. So, yeah, that's another thing that I think when I convert to an owner, when I have an associate, I've definitely considered, like, it sounds like a great way to incentivize. How do you think it is to track, Alex? Do you have trouble, like, you're good with math and everything, but I just feel like the more things you have to track to prove your income, the less people end up doing it. So one of the reasons I like simple production or just adjusted production is that it's so easy to evaluate and know if you got the right amount of pay. Where I would wonder, on a tiered system, do you speak with anybody within the organization? Do you feel like you're like, man, it's kind of hard to know how much I'm supposed to be getting paid each month because I got the 71,000 and that should have had this amount and this percentage and that and this like, you know what I mean? Could you provide some insights there?
So luckily in the corporation that I work for, they just have a portal where you can see what you produce, and it has those tiers clearly, so I can see my production per day.
Oh, that's great.
What I'm at, and it breaks it down for me.
Yeah,
I think a big point I want to say about this, and although we are about personal finance and making money and budgeting, I would say at the end of the day, Tony and I, we do care about the quality of our work, because at the end of the day, if you do good for others, even if you take a little hit now, I do believe it comes back to you. So, I hear in these corporations, you're just throwing patients and you do want to make money. And that's where the incentives on these tiered systems, look, we might fall into the trap of, I just need to produce more, I need to make a little more money. And so, yeah, like you said, you're stuck at 65 and you want to get up to 80 because of the tier, and hey, like I got loans to pay. And I do feel this pressure sometimes, and you got to take a step back and say, how am I producing it? Are my patients getting the work to the best of my ability? So I was lucky enough, I met a dentist who actually knew Dr. Dawson and Dr. Pankey personally, Dr. Glenn DuPont. I'm very lucky to have met him. And he gave me a book that Dr. Pankey wrote, Dr. Pankey, one of his colleagues, and, they've got all these old mantras, and cliches are cliche for a reason, right? Because they stand the test of time. One of his big things, he has these essentially crosses, like 4 points, and one of them is know your patient, and the second one is know your work. So, like, you might be like, you can only, and that is a technical skill, right? And your ability. So you might be tempted to push your production, but you might not have the capacity, whether it's speed or quality or the types of procedures you're doing, right? And so that's where I think people fall into the corporate trap and the trap of money, this allure of making more. And it's like, hey, if I can just bang out 2 crowns in this appointment instead of 1. But the quality suffers, right? Although I would say doing 2 crowns, especially next to each other, doesn't take twice the amount of time, maybe 1.5, 1.25. But still, if you can't do it, just don't. So yeah, like the tier systems, it's easy for me to track, but it can be alluring in the wrong way, where you're kind of aiming to do more just to do more and take it home. And even if the crown sits, even if it's okay, like, did you build the skill so that in 6 months, in a year, the crown that took you 60 minutes is of better quality that you can now do in 30 or 45 minutes, as opposed to, you did 2 or 3 crowns instead of 1, but man, the quality is just crap. Like no one deserves that. But anyway,
so I completely agree with everything you just said, and I 100% want everybody to hear when I'm talking speed, more income. I'm never saying do substandard work. If you follow me on Instagram, if you saw me in the clinic, it's always all about high quality. I redo work all the time if I look at it and it wasn't good enough. It's always on the house. I was more like getting at, if anyone's been following the Instagram the last few weeks, I've had, it's been weird. I've had literally like 5 or 6 cases where somebody wanted a bridge. They literally asked me for a bridge, and we take a bite, we take a PA, and there's like substantial bone loss on one tooth, and I'm like, no, we're not doing a bridge. I can do an implant today, though. and I place the implant, and the implant goes in, and we're done with that appointment in 30 minutes. Well, there's no way in hell I could have done a bridge appointment in 30 minutes, and it basically reimbursed me the same amount. So I'm more like talking about learning skills that can facilitate higher earnings. So in 30 minutes, we build $2,000. That is a very good producing procedure. It's a great service to the patient. They got what they absolutely needed. It was the ethical choice. But from my standpoint, that would have earned me a better hourly rate than the bridge would have. So I'm just more, talking, if you can move up those rungs, obviously we'd all want to be paid more for that.
And so now I'll jump to kind of a related point in terms of inflows. We talked about this a little bit in our very first episode on what comes out of your paycheck, but the benefit of a CE, a continuing education stipend. So
critical.
How can you improve your income, right? Speed of doing the same procedure, quality of doing the same procedure. So maybe you have less remakes, but also new and better procedures, right?
Yep.
So you can negotiate in your contract, or I know some corporations will offer their own CE. I just took an implant course where the course itself was paid for by the company. But I mean, look, if we're always trying to know our work and improve our work, we still need to learn the skill at some point. So one way to increase your income is, right, to increase your skill set, right? So taking different courses or just getting better at something. So that's another way.
Looking at it a different way. Sometimes the CE, like I used to think when I graduated dental school, I'd see all these docs going to like a crown prep CE. And I remember like literally thinking in my head, like, what is wrong with these people? They graduated dental school and they want to go to a crown prep CE? That's like dental school 101. And it's like, no, Tony, you idiot. Like, they're learning efficiency. They're learning how to do something, maybe back-to-back-to-back crowns within a quad. Maybe they're learning how to pat cord more efficiently, so that facilitates a scan depression as opposed to the PVS impressions. I don't know, but there's always things that you can be learning in these, like, even like class 2 resin. Like, I'm going to be going to one coming up here in January about fillings. And Tony, when he graduated dental school, would have slapped Tony today if he would have signed up for that CE. But now I'm like, yeah, dude, I need to see what's out there. I need to see what people are doing. A lot could have changed in 5 years. Let's see where the world's going with this. Yeah, so Alex is a CE junkie, man. I get a lot of people that'll DM me asking me about CE. I definitely do way over the minimum amount, but I am not as big of a CE junkie as Alex. So if anybody's listening has questions CE, dude, shoot us questions. We've spoken to lots of people, and Alex has done. He's avenued and looked into a lot, so we can help guide you on some choices if you want.
Right. So that's the actual dentistry part. The next sort of bonus or way to increase your income, inflow as we call it, and I think this is much more common in orthodontics. My peers, and maybe I'll get into my story at a later date, but a lot of orthodontic contracts will have a new patient bonus or a start bonus, right? So you actually just get money for a new patient saying yes to treatment. And these, I forget what the numbers, whether it's $100 or like $10 per patient, but the point is, in orthodontics where you're seeing a lot of patients, you're seeing 10 new patients, 5 new patients, you're seeing between 40, and I've seen a single doctor, and there's an inverse relationship at some point between the number of patients you see and the quality of your work, since what we do is a physical skill. But he was bragging that he was seeing 150 patients a day as a single orthodontist. And maybe I'm missing something. Kind of the tiers from the orthodontic knowledge that I have is, if you're seeing between 40 and 60, well, 40 or less, or up to 60 patients a day, you can do the highest quality orthodontic work. Because no matter what technology is out there, there's a lot of new stuff coming out. It's still a physical skill. To bend a nice, appropriate wire with arch form takes time with all the little bends and torque and all. Like, no technology at this current day, August 30th, 2025, will replace that. Not the type of bracket, not the type of wire. Anything, I would say, between 60 and 80 patients a day is you can do really good work. Anything above 80, some people are seeing 100, 150 patients a day. At least I do not believe, and I want to be proven wrong, but the quality suffers. There's no way you can think and see and work all these patients and do your consults and do your treatment plans and God knows what else, your aligner setups with that amount of patients.
But I think it goes back to our world too, like general dentists. I'll see people that post all over Instagram and Facebook, and they're solo docs, and they have 5 hygienists with them every day. And you see their schedules, and there's 4 columns, and they're like, I got 7 assistants, and I'm like, do I believe you can move that many humans through the building with all of that support staff? Yes. Do I think that anybody got an adequate treatment and exam in that from you, the only doctor there? I was like, I would bet almost everything I own you don't. I'm like, do you even remember who you saw at 10 a.m.? Name one person out of the 7 that were there. And like you said, I would love to be proven wrong. I'd love to go be a fly on the wall in one of these clinics and actually see it. Sometimes seeing is believing. I was thinking when you were talking about this, like a bell curve. I was watching this thing. You might like this with what's the world's strongest man? Brian Shaw. And they were doing all these studies on him. And bell curve, right? So the average person could squeeze 80 pounds or something, and he could squeeze like 800 pounds. So he was like 7 standard deviations over.
Right.
So he was 1 in truly 17 billion or something. And it was insane. So to your end, there is probably a human in the world that has the brain, the efficiency, they're like a psychopath with dental skills, and they could maybe see 150 patients as an orthodontist. There maybe is one human alive that's capable, but it's certainly not anywhere near the norm. This is that 7 standard deviations over, that weird, easy freak genetics that perfectly aligned with orthodontic skill set or something. I don't know. I'm just thinking maybe there's one person and I'd love to watch them and just applaud them from the background, just be that slow clap in the back, baby. But no, for all us normal humans that are somewhere in the normal 2 or 3 standard deviations, ain't no way.
Well, not even, because 3 standard deviations are already
97% or something.
Yeah, something like that. Anyway, so that was just new patients, getting patients in the doors, getting them to say yes if you have some sort of case acceptance or collections bonus, right? I would say the next one, I would call these both lump sum payments, is relocation assistance and student loan repayment. So again, I think these are very sexy ways for an owner or a company to entice you. Hey, you gotta move, you gotta whatever. I mean, I just moved.
Watch these with those.
Yeah.
Handcuffs a lot.
I just moved from St. Louis to the Tampa Bay area, and I got movers, which cost, I don't know how many thousands of dollars. Driving, packing, the time. Right. And so it's kind of the same idea. If someone is giving you a lump sum, why? It's because we love certainty. If you are worth $30,000, it is much less attractive to get that over a 12-month period rather than a lump sum for $10,000. Same thing with student loan repayment. I had one of my contracts are like, oh, we help with student loan repayment up to X amount. And they were saying just hey, every quarter we just give you a check or put X amount in your bank account. And I was like, how is that student loan repayment? That's just a way you're trying to incentivize me and give me a blank check, when I could just increase my daily rate. I remember I had this conversation. I was getting a sign-on bonus for this company. It was $10,000 or something. And after taxes, it was, 6.5. Yeah. Oh, bingo. Right there. And I was like, what if you just increased my daily guarantee for this 3 or 6 month period by $50 or something? And I calculated, it ended up being less than the sign-on bonus, but it was still the certainty that I got. So just be wary. And again, if you really need the money now, it might be worth it to you.
Also, read the fine print on those relocation bonuses. My wife, this is the physician world, but she thought she was getting a relocation bonus, and it was actually truly like a start bonus. They sold it to her, and the term used all throughout the paperwork was relocation bonus. So we thought we'd receive that before we had to move to Arizona. No, we received that payment after we had moved and she started. If you do really need it to make the move, and it is a true relocation bonus for you, I would encourage you to make sure that the language in the agreement actually articulates that the money is going to come now as opposed to once you start, because, obviously it wasn't a relocation bonus at that time, for us at least. So that was just something that we had to learn the hard way. And we did need that 17 grand to move across 3 states with 2 kids and move in a house and stuff. So yeah, just another food for thought thing. Make sure that's one of the clauses that you're pretty clear on before you ink that contract.
And for the relocation bonus, understand whether it is a blank check or a reimbursement. Because in some contracts, they'll say, hey, we'll give you up to $10,000, $20,000, but you got to send us receipts. You got to prove that these purchases, which are most likely the company also has to deem relocation, and you get reimbursed. So even if they say, hey, 20 grand relocation bonus, but your move only cost $15,000, you just left $5,000 on the table unless you know everything about your whole move beforehand, which, at least in my experience, you don't. Things always come up.
You can't.
Yeah, you're doing... And then you have to go through the time and effort of collecting receipts. And you should, keep track of everything you're spending, but then you got to send it to them and wait for them to approve it. And assuming this corporation's on their P's and Q's, they get it in a timely manner. So, again...
A lot of assumptions.
The general heuristic I have is that if someone is offering you a lump sum, they're trying to take it away from other places that might seem smaller and less attractive, but might be more beneficial. A production, a per diem, etc. So now we can move on to, and kind of finish this up, as very uncommon, but very valuable ways to make extra money on the side. So the first one is teaching in academia. I think when we're all in school, we kind of laugh at it like, oh, why would I be in academics, or why would I teach? First of all is the intangible, the emotional, the spiritual. I love mentorship. I'm very thankful for the mentorship, and I want to teach. But also there are some benefits to being part of a university. So tax benefits, just kind of being around smarter people. This one for me is honestly access to academic journals. Because there are all these papers I want to read, or textbooks, or something, and you go like millions, hundreds and thousands of papers, and each paper costs between $20 and $100. But if you've got that magic edu email, Alex Besmer, Sasha Besmer at school.edu, you get these papers for free, or access to a journal or something. Those are costs that are not coming out of your paycheck, or just the availability of information.
Or you're there, like where I went to school, CU, there's a ton of research happening. So you might be privy to information that isn't even published yet. You might be finding out, like the guy that created universal bonding agents, he does all the work at the University of Colorado. So he comes and gives the dental schools presentations every year about like where the research is headed. And so, yeah, if you really geek out on like finding out about the new bonding agents and all these things, you're really there getting the information live, as opposed to even waiting for the publications to hit the public. So yeah, I'm with you. The education, and frankly, just to kind of go back to what you said originally, right? None of us would be here if we didn't have these docs that wanted to come back and teach. So for the continuing of all of our careers, we need people that obviously want these things. So yeah, I'm thankful. A lot of my educators were like 40-year docs that came back, hands just dirty with all the things they had done, and could just tell you stories on stories on stories. So yeah, if anyone's listening that is that person, thank you.
And then kind of adjacent to this is, we'll call it public or government or institution-based teaching academia. The other is CE, as in, we all want to take CE, but you can also provide CE. Tony, you're kind of doing this now. Obviously, you're not getting credits, but we can imagine a day where these presentations that you're giving at schools, you become... Go for it.
The event in January, you'll get three CE credits. That there is.
Do you want to talk about the process of how you got, or is it ADA certification, or?
So actually, the partnership with Dentist Advisors, they have approval on 3 of their different presentations to give 3 credit hours for each of them. And one of the presentations they're going to give is one of those 3 credit hour presentations. None of my presentations yet have been approved. That's going to be in the works probably for 2027. So you can get 3 financial CE credits by coming to the event. But no, sorry to cut Alex off. I'll keep going.
No, so you can create CE, and especially as a young doc, let's just say you have a skill set that isn't clinical, or even an owner, someone's been in practice for 20 years, and you are not, I have a joke with my friend, the king of composite, right? You don't make the most beautiful aesthetic restorations, but you have learned skills or built these skills in management and leadership, and you can teach it, right? You can create your own CE either in person or online and get paid for that. Do it through a school, right? So that is another way you can increase your income, especially we will have a friend of mine, Zach, who has built with his two bare hands a very, very excellent high-end marketing and advertising, digital marketing and advertising agency for cosmetic dentists, right? He is not a dentist, but he has so much knowledge on this stuff. So
And specialist, a lot of the specialists in my neck of the woods, they put on monthly CE courses at their offices. They all call them institutes for whatever reason, but at their institutes, they'll put on like a free CE night where they're giving lectures based on cases that they've done. They'll have food, they'll have drinks. There's always CE credits associated with that. And they charge us general dentists nothing. Obviously, their goal is to pick up referrals. But, right, that's a great way to do that. I go to this Pros one every time I can. And a lot of times it's like things out of this world that I'm never going to do just to see what all is out there. I get free food. He doesn't just buy like Domino's pizza. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's almost a mastermind group of sorts, and we get CE credit. So yeah, if you are a specialist and you're looking for a way to pick up referrals, and you like to mentor and teach, this is a great way to get GPs at your clinic, let them see what you do, and help them take on the easier cases and let them know to send you the hard stuff. So,
my conspiracy theory on all of these kind of small group CE courses by specialists is that they show you the most cool but complex. You're like, oh my God, this is sick. And then you have to think about, am I going to do this? And you're like, hell no. I'm going to refer it to the guy who just showed me this, right? So
100%.
Kind of adjacent to CE is consulting. So CE, you think big or even small groups. Consulting, it could be much smaller, right? Let's just say Tony and I, we accomplished our dreams of becoming excellent in the space of personal finance and budgeting, and you have an office, and you invite us to come consult, right? We have our free 15-minute Zoom call. We talk to you about your goals. And hey, you pay us a fee to give you a skill set or provide a service for you that in the end also increases your income. So you have a skill set, whether it is systems or even clinical dentistry, and you want to do much smaller, we'll say peer-to-peer, that is consulting, right? The next, and I'm talking to all my Gen Zers, or no, I think the next is Gen Alpha maybe. But speaking in content creation, right? We've got our Instagram at The Educated Associate, _educated_associate. We've got our Substack, The Educated Associate, and we're making content, right? Hoping for our little niche, personal finance and budgeting and dentistry. You have the advertising route. We make an ad for a certain service that we like that we may use with ours in conjunction with our service, or you just monetize your account. This is super popular and sexy. Everyone's trying to be a content creator now, but at the end of the day, you still need to have the skill set or something that other people value to pay you for it. But it is an alternative route, as a new age dentist, and older dentists are doing this too. Youth is a mindset. So speaking, content creation, anything like that. Now,
and even if you're not using it to earn money necessarily, in many ways you are. Like, I would say, if you're going to own a clinic, if you're ever going to want to try and have your like personal dental brand or whatever, a lot of the Gen Z, Gen Alpha, even the millennials, people are going to go look at your socials. They're going to say, I'm going to see Dr. Schick today. I'm going to go check him out online. He doesn't have a social. I don't know. Maybe I'm going to go find somebody different. I don't personally do that yet, but I think the further we move on in life with how big social media's became, I think more people do really vet you on social, more so even than Googling you. So yeah, almost in a sense, if you're not using it to try and get money, you have to, so that you can have patients coming down to your clinic. So yeah, just my 2 cents. I almost think everybody has to have some sort of social presence if they have a public job like we all have.
Right. And then and this one was actually really interesting, and it's funny how it overlapped with this implant course I took in Houston. The prosthodontist that was leading it, he said, and this is the route, is becoming an expert witness in legal cases.
Yep.
So if you are interested in just being a good dentist who advancing the profession, talk to your legal buddies, because malpractice lawsuits are a huge thing in dentistry, whether it's an actual physiologic issue, biological issue that happened, any numbness after an implant, or you fractured something when taking out a tooth, versus just an unhappy patient that believes they were mistreated or maybe dismissed from a practice for a reason that they don't think is valid. You can become an expert witness in a dental legal case. So reach out to your legal buddies, talk to some judges, and see if there's an avenue for that. Again, you need to have some sort of, I wouldn't say accomplishment, but proof that your knowledge and your work is of quality, because if you are a witness or an expert, right, it's in the name, you need to know your stuff. But you can get paid for your time or open yourself to other opportunities to, again, going back to the theme of this episode, increase your income.
Or just alternative. You hate being sitting chairside, or maybe you're starting to get carpal tunnel and you're like, man, I love dentistry. I know so much. It's been my life for 10, 20 years, whatever. This might be an avenue you can look at so that you get to keep your dental mind fresh, get money, but you don't necessarily have to be sitting chairside drilling and filling. So the guy I work with, 47 years as a dentist, he did this for like 5 years in the middle of his career just for fun. And it said it kind of rekindled his career. He had a lot of fun with it. So, yeah, I think it's just another option out there.
The next option is to be some sort of advisor to a corporation. I see these on LinkedIn all the time, these direct-to-consumer aligner companies. And it's funny because they're usually looking for dentists and not orthodontists to become clinical advisors. It could be for a product, right, an aligner service, or even for an insurance company where you are a dental consultant who reviews claims or you help set policies, something like that. Again, these are ways outside of the drill and fill day where you can make some money. And look, I've applied to some of these positions just in case they picked me, just to see what it was like. Again,
and I was going to say, man, like, I think that some of these, like, these very big advisor positions in, let's just use Invisalign or some huge clear aligner company, say you got to one of those positions, you're talking about probably an income level that is substantially higher than you could ever make chairside. So my dad worked at Hewlett Packard for a long time. He's not a physician. He's not a dentist, anything like that. But he'd always tell me, Tony, you know these doctors that we hire to come like monitor our labs and they're the advisors to our medical boards. They're making like millions a year. And they just go to these meetings and they're not chairside all day. And so nothing against either option, but I just know that there is potentially a kind of sky's the limit level incomes depending on the position that you got into. So yeah, another just alternative income source. It's not for me, but if you hate chairside, or maybe your whole goal was money and you're figuring out that you're not getting that chairside, this could be a way that you could avenue to facilitate your goals maybe.
Right. So again, one of these dentistry adjacent ways to make money is starting and owning, I call it dentistry adjacent. When I first moved here, I actually got my apartment registered as a dental lab because I wanted to start a custom sports mouth guard for strength and physique athletes business, where I've got all the materials, maybe I'll show it another time, to make well-made, designed mouth guards. And the point was, it's great to protect your teeth, but it was more of a design aspect. Again, all these bodybuilders and powerlifters, they want to make it big on social media. There are tons of shirt companies, clothing companies, accessory companies. But what about a mouthguard company where you could have your logo or your team or whatever right here? It helps you lift and you can spread your brand and it looks cool, right? Kind of like a hat. So that, I also wanted to get into grills. What is a grill? Just an extra, not extra tooth as an additional, but outside of the tooth, right?
Removable veneer.
Right. And
veneers.
Now people are doing permanent grills, but regardless, we have the skill set, right? So I technically own a dental lab, or you could be a dentist who starts an actual dental lab, or you could
I do Botox on the side.
Yeah. And so think about things that interest you in dentistry, maybe on the product or the procedure side, that you can use to expand your practice and eventually maybe get other dentists on board. You're a dentist who owns a dental lab, and other dentists are using you. You just kind of own the space, or you know a lot about dental materials and the process, and you feel like you can do it better than anyone else. Kind of related to that is developing a product. So this Dr. DuPont, he was very big on empowering his staff, and he took a lot of open tray implant impression. And so you've got the impression coping, transfer coping, whatever you want to call it. But when you're spraying the material, it can get in the coping, right? Whether you want to put your glove over it when you're doing it. But one of his assistants invented the sort of plastic plugger, we'll call it, that fits in the coping. So you put it in, you do your impression, you wipe away the material, and then you can just take it out. So you can always retrieve and unscrew that impression coping easily. I believe he helped her develop it. I'm sure they produced it, and you get a royalty, you get sales off of that. So let's just say you created a system, a product or something. Talk to a patent attorney, talk to manufacturing companies, and you can produce that and still relate it to dentistry, increasing your income, and that's great, but it's also meaningful. You've created something with your bare hands. I think there's nothing more beautiful than bringing an idea to life.
You helped other people, and you can always live with that, and then it becomes passive income once it's created and on the market. You're, in many ways, unless you're actively marketing it all the time, you're just reaping the benefits of all that hard work and brain power that you used to get there. So kudos to anybody that's developed something that's obviously pretty cool.
So honestly, I think that about wraps it up for ways you can make money as a dentist.
A lot of options, man.
Yeah, aren't traditional drill and fill dentistry. All right, man. Any closing remarks? Anything you want to bring up?
Kind of like Alex said along the way, this was just supposed to be about all the various ways of income. Obviously, I don't have a statistic off the top of my head. Probably 90 or more percentage of us are working on patients. We're earning our income either through the practices that we own or employed in. But I think the message for the people that are sitting there thinking, I don't want to do this for forever, or I love it, but I need to not spend as many hours chairside. I think we provided a lot of options that you can look into. They're not for everybody, but there's probably something out there in dentistry for all dentists. So drop a comment. If you've tried any of these avenues that we've spoken about, Alex and I haven't. So we'd love to hear a personal opinion, a personal story. If you'd want to get on the pod and tell us about one of your stories working as an advisor for one of these companies, that would be awesome. I think that's great insights. Yeah, lots of options out there. Don't feel trapped, and the money can be good in many ways.
All right, Tony. Always a pleasure. So some topics we think we might talk about in the future. We can go a little more in-depth on insurances, different types, different companies. If you're curious about that, whether you want to know more about W-2, 1099, please let us know. If you're just interested in contracts, I'd say that is, aside from personal finance and budgeting, that's a bulk of our knowledge. We've negotiated a bunch of contracts. You want help, or you're just scared, which it happens. It's very daunting. You're kind of working against these big shot owners and companies, but you should stand up for yourself. You are worth something, right?
100%.
So any other ideas you have, please let us know. DM us on Instagram, follow, comment, like, subscribe, and let us know. We want to make sure this content is helping you. And as always, enjoy your day. Have a good morning, Tony. Hope you have a good time with your kids.
Good chatting.
See ya.